Our final guest this evening paints and writes in Chicago. He published 2 books in 2019, Music to My Eyes from Tortoise Books and Soviet Stamps from Pictures and Lather. He's also the author of 2 cabbie books, Hack, Stories from a Chicago Cab, and Where To, a Hack Memoir. He sometimes bartends and works in bookstores at other times. You can see more of his work than you want at DimitriSamarov.com, and he has books for sale tonight here. Welcome back to Tuesday Funk, Dimitry Samarov.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right, cool. So, yeah, as was just said, I published 2 books recently. The first of which is Music to My Eyes, which collects about 30 years of sketches of me going to draw people playing music and sort of the reflections connected to it. Let's see, it was released in March or April of last year, and I've avoided that whole time from reading from it, and I'm going to continue to. I don't want to break that string, so I'm going to read from the other book, which is called Soviet Stamps, and which actually was supposed to come out earlier. And in fact, the last time I read a Tuesday Funk, which is like 3 or 4 years ago, I read a thing that's in this book. And it's sort of like an immigration / how I started to do art memoir. It covers from when I was 7 to when I was about 27. And I'm going to read a couple of things from it. Let's see. The first thing I'm going to read is called 4th Grade Autobiography, and that's because that's what it is. I wrote this in 4th grade, which was about almost 40 years ago, and I had about maybe less than 2 years of English as an immigrant from the Soviet Union. So you can judge for yourself if you buy the books whether my English has improved in all these years. I don't know. I'm not convinced. So yeah, 4th grade, 1980 to 81. It's got a dedication. I dedicate this book to my best friend, Andre, who always made everything even between each other. It's got 4 chapters. The first is Babyhood. Russia, September 28th, 1970. I was born in a Moscow hospital, number 25. When the nurses saw me, they got quite scared. There was quite a reason for that, because my eyes were very big and bright. The thing that was scary was that with the big eyes, I looked as though I was mad at somebody. Not much has changed. My biggest act was that I fell off a table. There was no damage. I fell as softly as a kitten. My father carried underground literature in my carriage. At 8 months of age, I fell from my cradle a couple of times, but I was lucky because I fell on soft summer ground. Instead of starting to talk, I started to sing a Beethoven song, which my mother used to sing to me before going to sleep. My parents and grandparents were astonished by that act. When I was about 2 years old, I started to talk too. Between 2 and 2.5 years of age, I especially liked when my mother sat with me and read the poems and fairy tales of Pushkin, who is the best Russian poet. Okay, chapter 2, growing up. Unfortunately, I had a few things I was allergic to. Some of them are the same for me today. They include antibiotics, which my mother tried not to give me when I'm sick. Another was coconut. Whenever I ate it, and that was very rare because I always tried to escape that situation, I felt like throwing up. Once, I was running around, I fell on a piece of glass and cut my knee. But what was really astonishing was that I fell and I did not cry. There was another terrible thing that happened to me. Hey, growing up sucked. Once my mother baked a cake. I loved my mother's pastries, so I got on a chair and reached for the cake. The top of the shelf started falling along with me. Luckily, my babysitter grabbed me out of the way. I was not hurt. Chapter 3, School Days. In kindergarten, there was not much to tell, because for me, it was all the same. It was very boring. The days were all the same. I hated kindergarten in Russia. At last, it was the first day of school. I was supposed to go to the first grade, still in Russia. I was expecting a lot, but found little. It was almost the same as kindergarten. At last, my family and I moved out of Russia, away from rotten life. All right. And the final chapter, the future. So this is where I predicted what my life would be like now. When I graduated from high school, it was a very happy and important part of my life. I sometimes have the feeling that I'm still in high school, as in 4th grade. I don't know what specific profession I want to be in. The contestants of this event are artist and writer, or both. I knew. Writer because most of my teachers in the past few years of school said that my writing was fabulous. I have a great time at college. There was a lot of fascinating subjects. The university I go to is MIT. My father had an office at MIT, so that's where I got that. I play a lot of sport games as well as going to karate, which I've been going to for quite a few years. I learned a lot of self-defense, and I like it a lot. I think it's helpful to your health. I plan to get married when I start my working career. I would like a house in Northwest State or San Francisco. Hadn't been to either of those. I haven't picked the exact place yet. If I have enough money, I will take my wife, my children, and myself for a trip around the world. My children's names are Mark and Daniel. They like to play video games and pinball. My parents used to say that video games are stupid, but I don't say that to my children. Because I used to like them myself. And I wish that my children will have the same opinion for their children's hobbies. Once, Mark was jumping on his bike and he fell right off it. He said that his foot was in serious pain, so we rushed him to the hospital. The doctor said it was a sprain and he gave Mark crutches and bandaged his foot. In a couple of days, the foot healed. I have a lot of fun times with my family, and I wish it will never fall apart. I guess that is all I wanted to mention about what I expect for my future life. The end. So that was me in 4th grade, and then this is a very short snapshot of what high school life was actually like, or what I was thinking about in high school. Find this in a second. Yeah. So, I took a philosophy class with a teacher that made us write these kind of journal entries called reflections. And I always wrote just about the minimum, which filled up one side of the notebook. And this is reflection number 14 on happiness. Happiness is something that is fleeting. It's like a spark which rarely comes but outshines everything else in its path before it's gone again. One cannot wait for it or draw it out. One doesn't know when it will happen or how. It can't be premeditated because that's only lulling oneself into a false situation by some kind of comfort. It is not enough to be comforted. That is not happiness. Comfort is secure and attainable. Happiness is unpredictable and cannot be gotten. You can't buy it in a store or see it on TV, but when it's there, there's nothing else, momentarily. Thank you.